There's a moment in a man's life that feels strange, uncomfortable, and almost disorienting. The moment he finally starts seeing women clearly. Not the way movies shape it, not the way society frames it, not through desire or fantasy or fear, but through real perception. And when that shift happens, something inside him changes for good. It's like watching a magic trick you've believed your whole life and suddenly spotting the string that was always there. You can't clap the same way again. You've crossed a line, and the world you once moved through with such innocence starts to feel foreign. Most men never reach that point. They go through life trying to understand women through cliches, online advice, romantic ideals, red pill slogans, anything except genuine observation. They don't watch, they react. They want women, chase women, fear women, idealize women, but rarely understand them. And the painful truth is this: misunderstanding feels safe. It cushions a man. It gives him someone to blame, something to project onto, a story that protects him from the discomfort of reality. But the moment he starts seeing clearly, that's when the real challenge begins. Because a man who wakes up stops falling for the surface. He starts picking up on the pauses between her sentences. He notices the shift in tone when affection turns into calculation. He can tell when a woman's curiosity is real and when it's simply a way of assessing what she can gain. He sees loyalty not in sweet moments, but in consistent behavior. He sees attraction not as validation, but as a response to his grounded presence, not his desperation. And he sees vulnerability in places most men never bother to look. But the most unsettling realization is this: women behave differently around a man who can't be manipulated. And that truth isn't always flattering. A man who sees through the performance becomes, without trying, a disruptor of illusion. He's unmoved by tactics that work on most men: jealousy games, strategic silence, little crumbs of validation. He doesn't stumble over beauty like it's some divine force. He doesn't get drunk on attention. He understands that admiration can be currency, affection can be strategy, and charm can be a tool. Not because women are malicious, but because humans, all humans, use what works for survival. And when he sees the gears turning instead of just the smile, something shifts in the dynamic. Women don't necessarily dislike this man, but they often feel unsettled in his presence. Because when the usual emotional tools don't work, she has only one thing left: authenticity. And authenticity is terrifying. Authenticity requires exposure. Authenticity demands she show the person, not the persona. Most women have never had to do that. Most men never create that kind of atmosphere. So she feels seen, deeply seen, and she can't decide whether she's drawn to it or wants to escape it. And here's where the danger really begins. For the man, not the woman. Because once you see this way, you lose the ability to participate in the comfortable lies that make social interaction smooth. You can't believe a woman's words over her patterns. You can't pretend red flags are misunderstandings. You can't convince yourself that affection equals commitment. And you can't ignore signals just because you wish they weren't there. There's a softness in ignorance, a kind of emotional insulation. But a man who sees what others don't loses that insulation. He feels the truth even when the truth is inconvenient. He notices when a woman compares him to someone from her past. He notices when admiration is a performance. He notices when affection comes with an expiration date. He notices when she's there for comfort, not for connection. He notices when she wants attention more than she wants him. He even notices when she tests him, not because she doubts him, but because she doubts herself. Most men walk through life never picking up on these shifts. The awakened man feels them like changes in the weather. And once his perception sharpens, he can't switch it off. Just like someone who's heard a truth can't pretend to be deaf again. And that clarity brings a strange kind of loneliness. Not because he has no company, but because he has no illusion. He starts living in a world where he sees layers others never notice. He speaks a language most men don't understand. It's a language of patterns instead of promises, alignment instead of charm, energy instead of appearance. And sometimes, honestly, it makes him wish he could go back, because there comes a moment when he realizes most relationships aren't built on truth. They're built on mutually agreed upon illusions. A woman presents herself she hopes he'll adore, and the average man plays along because he wants the fantasy. But the awakened man can't play along anymore. His awareness turns off the stage lights, removes the script, strips away the costume jewelry of romance. He doesn't see the performer, he sees the performer. And when he sees the performer, he sees her fears too. The panic hiding under charm, the insecurity beneath confidence, the way she scans his reactions, watching every subtle cue. He sees her choose her words carefully when she senses he's not dazzled by her beauty in the automatic way other men are. He sees the moment she realizes she cannot use the shortcuts, seduction, validation, emotional drama to pull him in. She watches her recalibrate, and she knows he's watching. This is the paradox. A woman feels safest with a man she can influence, but she feels most attracted to the man she can't control. And the awakened man sits right in the center of that tension. He stays calm in her chaos. He isn't moved by her moods. He doesn't chase her approval. He doesn't fall apart without it. Most men suffer because they emotionally need women. The awakened man suffers because women don't know how to navigate a man who doesn't. It's not that he's cold. It's not that he's detached. It's simply that he sees. He sees when warmth is genuine and when it's tactical. He sees when excitement is real and when it's performed. He sees when she's present and when her attention is elsewhere. And this creates a dynamic most men never experience. Women respond to him with intensity, either pulled in or pushed away. Because when a man sees a woman's truth, he becomes the one man she can't manipulate, and the one man who can hurt her simply by noticing too much. And there's a look she gives him, a look you may know, a mix of curiosity and discomfort. She senses he's not fooled by charm, not intoxicated by beauty. He's listening not to what she says, but to what she avoids saying. And that look isn't anger or dislike, it's recognition. She realizes she's standing before a man who sees her emotional fingerprints on every part of the interaction. And that shakes her. Women are used to predictable responses, used to men who are easy to impress or easy to steer. But the awakened man becomes a mirror she can't control. And that forces her into reality.
When a woman feels that kind of exposure, she only has two paths. She can rise to meet that level of honesty, or she can run from it. There is no middle ground. If she's emotionally mature, she feels something almost like relief, Finally, she doesn't have to perform. She doesn't have to test. She doesn't have to strategize or control. She can just exist. Very few women ever experience this kind of space with a man. But if she is insecure, and most are, because the world conditions them to be, she feels exposed. She pulls away. She may accuse him of being too intense, too observant, too serious. Anything to shift the discomfort away from herself and onto him. She'll say he's reading too much into things. But the irony is, he's not reading too much. He's reading exactly what's there. Most men never see these signals. The awakened man sees them before she even realizes she's giving them. And this creates a kind of emotional exile, a place where he understands women more deeply than they understand themselves. But with that understanding comes responsibility, because once you see a woman's truth, you carry the weight of how you handle that awareness. Clarity isn't supposed to be a weapon. It can become one if misused, and that's why an awakened man has to develop restraint. He must use his insight gently, never to punish, never to shame, never to manipulate, because perception without compassion becomes cruelty. And an awakened man is not cruel. He simply refuses to participate in illusions. And whether women say it or not, illusions were their comfort. There's a quiet stage a man enters somewhere between awakening and acceptance, where he realizes that seeing clearly doesn't just change how he interprets women, it changes how women behave around him. His awareness changes the air in the room. Women become more honest around him, even without intending to. They reveal themselves in micro-expressions, in hesitation, in the way their voice shifts depending on what he awakens in them. And here's the strange thing. They don't realize they're revealing anything, but he does. He notices when she's torn between wanting attention and wanting control. He notices when she flirts out of insecurity, not desire. He notices when a compliment is sincere and when it's bait meant to hook a response. The awakened man sees motives woven into gestures, intentions hidden inside silence, emotional truths embedded in small talk. And that level of perception creates tension other men never feel. Because once a woman realizes, consciously or unconsciously, that she cannot hide behind charm, she is forced into honesty. And honesty is a confrontation most people have never trained for. Women don't fear being disliked by a man. They fear being understood by him. Because once a man understands a woman, he becomes immune to the illusions she uses to feel safe. He cannot be seduced by fragility. He cannot be manipulated by guilt. He cannot be pushed around by mood swings. He doesn't react to emotional chaos. He remains steady, composed, grounded. And women are not accustomed to that kind of stillness. They're used to men who crumble under beauty, beg under affection, or fall apart when tested. But when a man sees what others don't, he becomes someone she cannot move, and that forces her to face herself. She realizes she must bring something real, something sincere, something deeper than the tools she uses on ordinary men. She must show up as a human being, not a performance. And this is where relationships with awakened men become both challenging and incredibly beautiful. Because the awakened man knows what a woman looks like when she is truly connected. The softness in her eyes, the calm in her voice, the absence of strategy. He knows what genuine affection feels like, and he knows what borrowed connection feels like. He knows the difference between a woman who desires him and a woman who just doesn't want to be alone, and he knows it immediately. Most men take months, sometimes years, to figure out these differences. An awakened man feels them instantly. But with that awareness comes a cost. He can no longer enjoy the illusions that once felt intoxicating. He can't be swept away by beauty alone. He can't mistake sweetness for sincerity. He can't confuse attention with affection or chaos with passion. He can't pretend a woman loves him when he knows she simply needs someone there to soothe her insecurity. He may still admire beauty, he may still enjoy charm, he may still feel desire, but he is no longer controlled by those things, and that changes everything. Because a woman can easily influence a man who wants her too much. She can easily confuse a man who is blinded by attraction. She can easily manipulate a man who fears being abandoned. But a man who sees, a man who truly sees, is dangerous. Not because he dominates, not because he withdraws, not because he's indifferent, but because he is free. Freedom is the variable no woman can predict. She cannot control him with allure. She cannot sway him with silence. She cannot shake him with emotional storms. She can't bait him with validation. He becomes immune to the forces that steer most men. And that immunity creates a different kind of pull. Women are drawn to him not because he seeks them, but because he isn't controlled by the same needs and fears that everyone else operates from. His independence becomes magnetic. His clarity becomes addictive. His lack of desperation becomes irresistible. And yet, the same clarity that draws women in is the reason he cannot connect with most of them. Because the awakened man will not build a relationship on illusion, and illusion is exactly how most relationships begin. This leaves him in a kind of emotional wilderness, surrounded by options, yet incompatible with most of them. He isn't alone because he lacks attention. He is alone because he sees too clearly to accept what he once would have tolerated. And eventually, he reaches a realization that feels heavy. Seeing women clearly doesn't just change how he views them, it changes how he views himself in relation to them. Once he understands the emotional mechanics behind attraction, insecurity, desire, fear, and manipulation, he begins to ask a question most men never ask. What kind of woman can actually meet a man who sees everything? It's not about beauty, it's not about charm, it's not about curves, youth, status, or niche value. It's about depth. Because once you see past the masks, you no longer want the woman who relies on them. You're no longer attracted to the woman who tests you, unsettles you, or performs for you. You're no longer interested in chaos disguised as passion, distance disguised as mystery, or manipulation disguised as feminine energy. Once you see clearly, you start wanting something much rarer, a woman who doesn't need to perform at all, a woman who isn't afraid of being seen, a woman who can sit in truth without flinching, feel without manipulating, speak without calculating, and love without leverage. Most men take months, sometimes years, to figure out these differences. An awakened man feels them instantly. But with that awareness comes a cost. He can no longer enjoy the illusions that once felt intoxicating. He can't be swept away by beauty alone. He can't mistake sweetness for sincerity. He can't confuse attention with affection or chaos with passion. He can't pretend a woman loves him when he knows she simply needs someone there to soothe her insecurity. He may still admire beauty, he may still enjoy charm, he may still feel desire, but he is no longer controlled by those things. And that changes everything. Because a woman can easily influence a man who wants her too much. She can easily confuse a man who is blinded by attraction. She can easily manipulate a man who fears being abandoned. But a man who sees, a man who truly sees, is dangerous. Not because he dominates, not because he withdraws, not because he's indifferent, but because he is free. Freedom is the variable no woman can predict. She cannot control him with allure. She cannot sway him with silence. She cannot shape him with emotional storms. She cannot bait him with validation. He becomes immune to the forces that steer most men. And that immunity creates a different kind of pull. Women are drawn to him not because he seeks them, but because he isn't controlled by the same needs and fears that everyone else operates from. His independence becomes magnetic. His clarity becomes addictive. His lack of desperation becomes irresistible. And yet, the same clarity that draws women in is the reason he cannot connect with most of them. Because the awakened man will not build a relationship on illusion, and illusion is exactly how most relationships begin. This leaves him in a kind of emotional wilderness, surrounded by options, yet incompatible with most of them. He isn't alone because he lacks attention. He is alone because he sees too clearly to accept what he once would have tolerated. And eventually, he reaches a realization that feels heavy. Seeing women clearly doesn't just change how he views them, it changes how he views himself in relation to them. Once he understands the emotional mechanics behind attraction, insecurity, desire, fear, and manipulation, he begins to ask a question most men never ask. What kind of woman can actually meet a man who sees everything? It's not about beauty, it's not about charm, it's not about curves, youth, status, or niche value. It's about depth. Because once you see past the masks, you no longer want the woman who relies on them. You're no longer attracted to the woman who tests you, unsettles you, or performs for you. You're no longer interested in chaos disguised as passion, distance disguised as mystery, or manipulation disguised as feminine energy. Once you see clearly, you start wanting something much rarer. A woman who doesn't need to perform at all. A woman who isn't afraid of being seen. A woman who can sit in truth without flinching, feels without manipulating, speaks without calculating, and loves without leverage.
But something unexpected happens on Tuesday. She's standing in the same kitchen, same overhead light, same sink, same exhaustion, but this time she catches herself. Not in a dramatic, life-changing epiphany, just a pause. A tiny, quiet moment where her brain whispers a question it has never asked before. What if it's not that I'm failing? What if the life I'm living is simply impossible? She looks around. Nothing in this room was designed for a woman who works, parents, plans, manages, anticipates, remembers, comforts, schedules, shops, supervises, softens, absorbs, and holds everything together. Nothing in this room reflects the truth of her load. And for the first time, instead of blaming herself, she feels anger. A clean anger, an awakening anger. The kind that doesn't burn you, it illuminates you. She realizes she didn't choose to be the default parent. She didn't choose to be the emotional buffer. She didn't choose to carry the invisible labor no one sees. She didn't choose to be strong because she wanted to, but because she had to. And once she sees it, she can't unsee it. She notices how people praise fathers for doing the bare minimum. She notices how mothers are expected to justify rest. She notices how society calls women superheroes as a way to avoid helping them. She notices how every compliment is just a prettier way of saying, "We like that you suffer quietly." That night, she doesn't cry on the kitchen floor. She sits at the table instead. She writes a list. Not of chores, but of boundaries. She doesn't know how to enforce them yet. She doesn't know how people will react. She doesn't even know if she believes she deserves them. But she writes them anyway, because something inside her has shifted. She's no longer asking, "How do I do more?" She's asking, "Why am I the only one doing it?" And that small change, that microscopic pivot in thought, is the beginning of a rebellion so ordinary, yet so powerful, it has toppled entire generations of silent sacrifice. The next morning, the world looks exactly the same, but she doesn't. The alarm still goes off, the child still needs breakfast, the emails still pile up, the laundry still waits like a quiet accusation. But she moves through it differently. Not faster, not better, just with awareness. When her partner asks, "Why didn't you wash the uniforms last night?" she doesn't apologize. She simply says, "Because I was tired, and it's not only my job." There is a silence, not the explosive kind, the kind that comes when reality rearranges itself. He opens his mouth, then closes it again. Because somewhere inside, he knows she's right. He always knew. It was just convenient not to. Later, her mother calls and says, "You can't just let the house go. A good woman keeps everything in order." And for the first time in her life, she replies, "I don't want to be a good woman if it means disappearing." Her mother is stunned.
then quiet, then unsure. Because maybe, just maybe, she never wanted that life either. She just survived it. And then something even more shocking happens. Her child walks into the room, sees her sitting with a cup of tea, and asks, "Are you resting?" She nods. Her child smiles and sits beside her, peacefully, without fear. Because children don't need perfect mothers. They need mothers who still exist. Throughout the day, she notices small, radical truths. The world does not collapse when she stops picking it up. Other people are fully capable when she stops cushioning them. Rest is not laziness. It is proof she is human. Help was always available. It just wasn't offered while she was silently performing miracles. That night, she doesn't collapse into sleep like a dying battery. She chooses to sleep, not as surrender, but as a declaration. I am done setting myself on fire to keep everyone else warm. And as she turns off the light, a new thought settles into her bones. She doesn't want a medal. She doesn't want applause. She doesn't want to be admired for endurance. She wants a life that doesn't require endurance.